workshop to order. We have got Austin Bates here with us from Pinnacle IT, and Philip Plouch in the city of Bryant. And we're going to be talking about a couple things. One is the .gov transition. I'll talk about the state law that requires that. The other thing that's on here is servers that we don't technically have to purchase until next year, but I wanted them to tell you about what they're seeing in the server market and why it might be a better idea to go ahead and make that purchase now, because but what I wanted to show you is you have a budget adjustment form for the servers in your workshop packet, but it's not in the it's not on the agenda for the meeting. And the reason for that is if you want, you've got it here. If in this workshop you as a council say, hey, we probably need to go ahead and add that, you have it, okay? To add it to the agenda if you so please, but it's completely your decision. I didn't want to put it in the agenda assuming that you were going to say yes or no to what you want to do with the servers. But anyway, that's the two big things, the .gov and the servers. So y'all come on up and begin.
I'm going to make it so that the screen can actually see me. There we go. Hello, everybody. To everybody who has not met me before, but I think that's everybody now. I'm Philip. I'm our IT support technician here for the city. And of course, we've had the pleasure of working with Pinnacle since May of last year. So this is coming up on the first kind of full year with Pinnacle. So we wanted to bring some of these changes to you guys, partially motivated by some new laws that have come out, partially motivated by me, now that I have a full year with Pinnacle under my belt, trying to bring some new IT goals to the city, and planning a couple of things. So I've written a couple of quick goals here that I'm going to share with you guys and then turn it over to Pinnacle for them to start their stuff. The first thing is that I want to find more opportunities for myself for certifications and trainings. I want to make sure that our policy is up to date so that I have more trainings I can go do. I can learn more because December was my first full year doing IT and doing stuff for the city. So I'm still very new to it myself. I want to make sure I'm bringing the best effort to the city and the best training that I can, and finding more ways to connect with other people so I can learn more what I'm lacking in my knowledge and trying to fill that gap. I also want to create more accurate and updated inventories. Working with Pinnacle on that, they have an agent that will keep track of our computers for us. So I just want to work on that and get more accurate inventories than what we've had previously so that I don't have somebody pulling up with a laptop. And I've never seen this laptop before. I want to make sure I know of every laptop in the city, no matter how old or clunky it is. I also want to create a mobile device management system for the city. With our .gov and migration, we will get access to Microsoft Intune. That will allow me to actually deploy apps to people's phones. I can remotely reset passwords if somebody gets locked out of their phone. A lot more features that we've been lacking just due to lack of access to any kind of good software that can do that for us. So our hope is that we will be able to do that and help provide more support to more devices for the city. I also, for the city, want to encourage more cybersecurity training and assessments, doing a network assessment to be able to look for improvements to our network, be able to do penetration testing and vulnerability assessments with Pinnacle and some partners so that we can find any cybersecurity gaps that we have and help patch them in before any bad actors can find them. We're going to find them and be proactive instead of reactive. As well as training our employees how to do better cybersecurity. Part of the Microsoft also will include Proofpoint, which will give us access to do phishing tests with emails. So we can send emails out to our employees and say, hey, we noticed that you clicked this suspicious link. Don't do that next time. Here's some training and some things to keep an eye out for, to tell when that email is bad. As well as just provide more robust IT trainings so that people understand this .gov transition a little better. We can help them work through any issues that they may have and provide more of a face-to-face support to our employees. And lastly, we wanted to reinforce some of our backups and security. We've realized that, of course, now that we have Pinnacle IT, all of our emergency procedures and stuff probably need to be updated to include them in that procedure. So we're working together, including with our this possible server upgrade that we were looking at, including some of our .gov backups, to be able to provide better backups in case of just natural emergency or anything like that. We would be able to restore back to a working point very quickly. So these are some of the goals that I wanted to bring forth and why we kind of motivated trying to get this out in front of you and get ahead of some of this. And I'm going to turn it over to Austin and we can start the presentation.
Thank you. Well said, Philip, and thank you. Is this going to click through? Perfect. Well, wanted to start off, good evening, everybody. Thanks for having me. Going to work through and talk about the .gov domain transition, the options that you guys have there as a city and council to vote on, and then potentially looking at server upgrades as well. We'll just get right into it. So where do I need to point?
It should be putting down.
Cool. So a little bit about the Act 929. I'm not going to go through and read all that, but I literally copied and pasted a snippet in this slide deck up here. The gist of it is, and the reason for the change is there were a lot of cities, counties that had .com, .org, and having a .gov gives a lot more credibility to a city or a county. The citizen's going to know that that's a trusted website. .gov websites have to have a much more higher level of security in place, have to have a lot more robust just security default settings, which I could get all into the detail there, but we'll talk more about it with some of the other stuff. But essentially, this quote was passed to make sure that everybody's on the same playing field from a local government security standpoint, and it helps hold, it also builds trust with the citizens as well. And so it's a process that all the cities in the state are having to go through, and we're working with not just Bryant, but a lot of cities on this right now. And it's a fun process when they. So the two options are obviously staying with Google. City of Bryant already has a Google Workspace account with Google. It's, I want to say, one of the more basic packages. I don't remember the exact title for it, but essentially, just to give you all a breakdown, it is currently $18,000 annually, and this is actually on the next slide, but the upgrade to be government, to actually be able to be a verified .gov domain, to even be allowed to have that, the cost is like, it's 20 times literally that. And then the other option is migrating to Microsoft, which is also substantially more expensive than the current solution, but again, it's much more feasible from a cost standpoint. And getting more into the details of that. The Google licensing, and this is a screenshot on the slide, it's hard to read from there, I'm sure, but it was $248,000 a year, and this was something that Philip got, I think through SHI, SHI for Google licensing. That would be required to have a .gov domain, have a .gov tenant, a cloud environment. It's an astronomical number, and one thing that you'll see in comparison with the next slide on Microsoft cost, which I'll go ahead and scoot onto that one, just compare right here. I don't have to go copy and paste a quote from Microsoft because it is straight on their website. All you need is this one license type for the cloud itself. So, it's either Google or Microsoft. For the Microsoft cloud, it is a very smooth $37.80 a month per user, and it comes with all the required basic security settings from a standpoint of being able to push out, reset, passwords, devices, and also gives you access to all the Microsoft suite of apps as well, just like Google gives you access to Google Meet and Sheets and Slides and all those applications too. The G3 licensing for Microsoft annually is $113,000, so it's about $35,000 difference annually between Microsoft and Google licensing. And it's also one line item compared to having 4 or 5 line items on the Google quote. The additional required security tools, whether you do Google or Microsoft, are going to be a cloud, advanced email security. Philip mentioned it's actually called Proofpoint, but it's easier to just say cloud email security. So how that works is it comes rolled in with a security awareness training, which does the phishing simulations and things of that nature. You also get a quarantine report every day. For me, it quite literally comes in at 3:02 p.m. every day. I have the ability to safely preview emails that got blocked as spam, and then if I know, hey, that's a vendor that needs to be approved and released, you can actually do that from right there in the quarantine report as well. And then, something else too, like if you're, something happens in a mailbox goes down, Proofpoint actually gives you the ability to act as your mailbox. Not gonna go off on too technical of details, but it's a really great tool. Then the next would be the cloud data email backup. So we have a tool with one of our partners, Datto, essentially. It's $5 per user. So if we assume it's 250 users, it's actually incredibly cheap for what it does. It backs up mailboxes, it backs up anything that's in OneDrive. So like if you attach, all your desktop files to your OneDrive and those kind of things, it's gonna back up Word, PowerPoint, notes, emails is the most important part, obviously. It comes with infinite retention, whatever policies you wanna set up. For example, let's say X city employee is terminated or moves on, and you wanna archive their mailbox. There are a couple different ways you can do that. You can not even buy a new license for Microsoft for the new employee. This backup tool, you can keep that backup forever and just pay for an extra backup license, or you could keep it in the Microsoft cloud. So what I'm getting at here is having the backups in place allows you to, in case, your Microsoft account or what they call the tenant, which I should have explained at the beginning, but the tenant is just the whole cloud architecture for Google and Microsoft. Tenant's the term there. If something happened to your tenant and it got legitimately compromised by a bad actor, having those backups, you'd be able to, essentially, it's kind of weird because it's in the cloud, but you'd be able to restore to your previous state and then reset all passwords. And having that Microsoft level government licensing gives you the ability to literally cut access to every account, or even if just one account got compromised, you could cut access to that account. And you can actually go back in the logs in the cloud, Microsoft cloud logs, and see where bad actors attack and everything. I'm going a little bit all over the place on the security aspect just to tell you that there are so many options and advantages to going and implementing these security tools. So that way, if something did happen, you can go back, city can cover themselves and say, hey, we have the security tools in place, and here's the logs to show what happened. It was a 1 in a million thing, which does happen in the real world in IT and cybersecurity, but when you stack these layers of security up, it's like stacking cheese. The more layers you have, the harder it is to cut through them, and that's the approach we take. And then the last item on the security tool slide, it's called a SIEM product. Much cheaper on the monthly side. Essentially, it's going to attach to network devices like firewalls. And I put a quantity 10 on there. I think it's more like 5 because it would attach to a couple of switches and firewalls. And it's, in comparison to like the email and cloud stuff, it's actually physically installed on a network device. And so it can see if there's any funny activity going on or suspicious activity going on through your firewall, and it really just scopes out your whole network. And it also helps you keep network logs for, I believe it's an extended period of 14 days. And the reason that matters is most firewalls, even the $3,000 firewalls, they only keep network logs for up to 2 to 3 days. And so that's why we recommend that. Are there any questions so far? I know I'm going over a lot of information.
So you mentioned that, one cloud service is cheaper than another, but what's it going to cost the city to convert from the Google cloud over to the Microsoft cloud? I mean, these are, probably how many years have we been using Google and all the files are over there?
That's a great question, Walter. It actually makes no difference, believe it or not. And the reason being is because it's not just like you're uplifting this level of Google licensing to a government compliant, right? It's actually, you have to create a whole new tenant and you have to stand up a new tenant. And so in the theoretical statement of work we put here, assuming that the decision was to go with Microsoft, either way you would still have to migrate the mailboxes, migrate the data from the Google workspace that you have in place now to the government compliant tenant. It really, just being blunt with you guys, it really sucks that that's the case, right? Even in Microsoft's world, if y'all were in Microsoft right now and you guys had 365 in place for all the city employees, it would be the exact same scenario from that standpoint. I wish it was simpler, but it's not, unfortunately.
Well, that's a great geeky answer, but the question was actually a cost, because this is a legislative body that manages cost. What's the cost to migrate from the Google file formats, if you want to use those simplistic terms, over to the Microsoft product?
Yeah, sorry I didn't directly answer you. So the cost is going to be about 600 hours of labor at $50,400. $50,400 is a one-time professional services cost.
Okay, so that's on that line item.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I
And-
just want to make sure it was in there.
Yeah, and again, you're migrating the same amount of data, and then like converting from a Google Doc to a Microsoft, there's a tool that does that.
Yeah. There's an app for that, huh?
Exactly.
All right.
No pun intended. And then just to give you guys an idea of some of the work that goes in, I'm not going to read every word up there, but essentially you go through and you create all the mail distribution groups, for parks or for city hall or courts or whomever. You're going to go through on each desktop and you're going to set up OneDrives for individual accounts. You're going to go through and make sure multi-factor authentication is put in place. You're going to make sure that all the policies are set up to make sure you're resetting passwords every 90 days or whatever that, Philip and everybody else decides it needs to be. And then there's just various things like on OneDrive, for example, if we migrate all the files and data, there's an instance where maybe the first time it moved around some files and people think files are missing, and then you got to go in and we would remote into a machine and say, hey, the files are there. For some reason it just moved them down a couple of lines or something like that. And just making sure that everything's organized the same way so it's as seamless a transition as possible. And then it's not really part of the statement of work, but we also help train people on how to, hey, we're going from Google to Microsoft. Okay, we need to show you how to use Teams. We need to show you how to access OneDrive. We need to show you why you need to make sure you're actually saving stuff to OneDrive and not just your local computer in case it dies and you lose that information. So the new monthly fees broke down to $16,202.50 per month. $9,450 of that comes from the Microsoft licensing. The tenant management for the services side is a $3,750 a month line item. Advanced security, $1,687.50. Cloud backups, $1,250, and then the SIEM network protection is the $65 a month item.
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
So with subscription models, a lot of times in large organizations, they end up paying for, phantom licenses. People move, they migrate. You talked earlier about policies and procedures. Is there any active management of making sure that we're not paying for licenses that are currently assigned to empty positions within the organization?
Yeah, so again, great question. The way that would typically work is that 250 number is theoretical, for example.
Yeah.
So if we go in and we say, okay, you need 245, but we'd also discuss, because of Microsoft's subscription model, it makes sense to buy, in y'all's size, 5 extra, for example, because you can upgrade, add at any time, but if you choose to add one on a monthly basis or float a couple licenses at a monthly cost, it's usually 20 to 30% more expensive. And then, in some cases, if ex-employee leaves, there may be a legitimate reason to hold on to that account for 6 months or a year. And so they have the annual renewals and everything, and then whenever we send out our monthly maintenance reports, if the decision is to go with Microsoft or if it is to go with Google, we're able to sit there and pull a user list, and we can show you the time it's last logged in. You can see which license is active or attached to it. So we do a lot on the back end from a maintenance standpoint to make sure that we're auditing it for ourselves and for y'all. And then anytime those renewals come up, so let's say this project starts in the next few weeks, we get the licenses procured on March 15th, March 20th. March 20th, 2027, that renewal is going to come up 30 days out. We're going to reach out. Obviously, we'll all, at that point, already have an idea of, okay, these 10 licenses can go away. We're not renewing these 10 because we've downsized a little bit. These people don't need full-blown licensing, or whatever the case may be. Whenever it comes to that renewal time, we do downsize, upsize as needed. We're not trying to nickel and dime. We certainly don't want you to say, Pinnacle don't know what they're doing. Why are you guys charging us for 20 licenses we don't need?
Yeah. I'm afraid my question was a little less technical. Can we hear from the two of you that there'll be a policy in place that as employees leave, that there'll be a review of that account when things go 6 months without being looked at? That's when that problem crops up. We're paying for licenses. Nobody remembers the guy that left 6 months ago. So I just wanted an affirmation in this public forum that we'll have some sort of policy, HR, not IT, that would allow us to trim the licenses on a month-by-month basis?
I can actually answer that.
Okay.
So unfortunately, no, you can't downsize. That's why we do, so if what you're asking is right, if you have these phantom licenses, you start at 240. Am I understanding correctly? You're saying if 3 months from now, there's like 5 or 10 that are just out there, nobody's using them.
Yeah.
Microsoft doesn't let you do it.
Okay.
Google doesn't let you do
That's
it.
answered my question.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
At least it's not at license level, but at account level, I do go through and suspend email addresses when an employee is terminated, and then delete that
Yeah.
email address down the line. But I know that's not. a
Yeah, the license
fee.
was presented as per person, implying there was some granular control,
Essentially, that's
but,
a
yeah.
better way to put it. But
Okay,
But you're saying annually you could adjust it without the penalty, right?
Microsoft will let you add at any point. They will not let you subtract at any point. It is interesting.
Crazy.
It's unfortunate.
That brings me to my question. What's the term on this? Is this yearly renewals? Is this 3-year term, 5-year term?
So for the Microsoft licensing,
Yeah.
it's yearly.
Okay, Google's the same, I'm assuming? Okay.
Yeah, and with all the other security tools, it is important to throw out there, those are all month to month. And so all the security tools we offer, the cloud backups, the security, even the tenant management, at the end of the day, if, Philip decided, hey, I want to manage all that, or, get certification for cloud stuff, and it's like, hey, I got that. Like, all that stuff's month to month. It's just the Microsoft, per Microsoft, that's not a Pinnacle decision, so.
Mayor, what is our FTEs right now?
Man, I don't know. What do you think?
What does FTE stand for?
Full-time
Full-time
equivalents.
equivalent.
Oh,
I think it's something like 180.
yeah. 180, 190. I know we have more than that in licenses right now for Google, but I think current Google accounts we're sitting at like 240. I know off the top of the head there's 5 to 10 that are
Would-
in line to be
The
canceled.
pricing's based on 250, correct?
Yes,
Head count. I mean, is that typical to go that much higher than our FTEs at 180?
Well, we have part-time employees. too.
Yeah, I was gonna say there are a lot of like not FTEs that
So,
do have that.
let me rephrase then.
How many?
How many accounts are we needing? Like, is 250 the accounts, or is it less?
250 right now is our
Employees.
best estimate.
Okay.
That's when I renewed our Google last year. That's what I did because I had 240 licenses and I was full.
Yeah,
So I
that
went up to 250 to have myself a little wiggle room.
was a terrible
No.
question. You answered it better, so I appreciate
Yes.
it.
So when we do this, we're quoting right now 250. When we actually start this project, we're going to go through, analyze, and go, you know what? We said 250. Looking at our actual active employee accounts, we only have 235. And so we will knock that number down to whatever is appropriate. We're not locked in to buy 250.
But you can add as needed.
Then we can add it.
Yeah.
We just can't go lower.
And part of that reasoning is too, is we don't want to come at you with pricing for 230 and then, oh, hey, we got another budget adjustment, so. It's all consumption based on the front end, and we'll start wherever we need to start on the license count.
So speaking of budget, how much more is this 16 than what we have budgeted now, or what we're paying now a month?
So the 16, you calculated that, right? I haven't had a chance to.
I was gonna say, so right now, we did our Google renewal off of a year. So that was about, I think it was 18 was what it just renewed at for the last year.
It's for a year.
And that is per year. I have to buy a whole year of that at once.
When does that come?
It will come up, I think November is when it comes up. It's either October or November. I should have looked at it before and I just totally forgot that date. But I locked us in at least for one more year for this transition in our basic. It's Google Essential, Google Workspace Essentials is the name of it. But it really is just like the bare bones of what we can get from Google.
Okay.
So I'm a little slow with math, but 12 times 16 and 12 times 18,
No,
You know, it's
18
18
year.
of Google, like that.
so
It's
That is
the
one
essential, like, low.
probably heard 200 and something thousand for,
That is to go to the Google
to the
government.
new,
okay. All
It's
right,
not what
the
we're
old-
currently paying.
okay.
cheaper.
Yeah. So what we had was kind of like the bargain basement version.
Or Volkswagen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we really needed it.
Hey, Volkswagens could be nice.
That was my first car. I love a Volkswagen.
Worth a lot.
It served us well for a number of years.
Yeah.
But we probably can't really use it.
Volkswagen or the Google?
You've got a budget adjustment form for the .gov transition that's in the agenda.
I didn't want to say that Philip worked this up a lot. I out on vacation last week, so there is probably the possibility that I'll bring it back to you guys and split it, because right now it's all in general fund and they're at the way this is done. But we wanted to get it to you guys and make sure you were okay with us spending the money, but it'll be divided out between water, wastewater, street at some point, when we have the actuals more hammered out.
What's the deadline for this?
The deadline is May 31st or June 1st, I can't remember. if
It's May 31st.
Yeah, May 31st.
Of this year or next year?
This year.
So far, good.
I was gonna say, for cities under 10,000, they have until December, but because we're over that population, we have until May 31st.
Can we de-annex?
Yeah, start out Lombard.
That's,
Anyway.
Shots fired.
So if I'm reading sort of the council's questions, I think we're trying to differentiate the mandatory .gov conversion with our recurring annual expenses for IT. And we're gonna see some other big expenses in a minute. Just line item for the recurring IT expenses, what are they gonna be in this proposal versus what they were in the last 12 months? Not the one-time stuff, but the recurring stuff.
Go back to that slide that had the monthly costs on it.
Wrong way. again.
Wrong way.
Yeah.
So I know that that's the monthly fee, so it's not an exact year. So we were paying for the Google licenses we had, 18,000. I have not done the math on how many Microsoft licenses I have bought in the last year, but I was individually buying one-off Microsoft 2021 licenses because everybody likes their Microsoft Excel. So yeah, I had to get that for every new computer. They were roughly $30 a computer. So that is the total cost of what we spent. For Google was about 18,000 a year. I'm gonna say I bought 20 licenses of that Microsoft Office. So that's what, 20 times 30, $600 a year on that. We are of course making a large jump up to do the 16,000 a month to total out to be, in the budget adjustment, I think it's 182 or 162 is what I put in there. That was prorated down for 10 months this year. I think it's in total 182. So it's, I know I am asking for 10 times the amount to be able to do that. Does that answer that question, Walter, or am I not?
Are you talking about the difference between the .gov conversion cost and the cost, the new cost from Pinnacle?
No, I'm trying to exclude the conversion, the mandatory .gov from the conversation so we can compare apples and apples.
So what that annual cost of Microsoft will be without the Pinnacle $50,000?
So if you take the 16,202.50, it's like 194 and some change. If you subtract the 18 that it was previous to this, it's a difference of 176.
176,000.
So it's $176,000 more dollars a year to do this, but we don't have much choice is what's been told to me.
Right, again, I'm trying to take the stuff we don't have choices
Yeah.
and set it aside and compare apples and apples, so.
So I think this $176,000 additionally a year is a non-choice item, is what I understand. I mean, I don't pretend to understand all the IT stuff, but I was not happy with it.
You were happy on vacation, I think. All right.
And we did mention too that the Google government, to stay with Google, would be $240,000 a year. And then we would look at still adding on some of this cloud tenant management, the advanced email security, which raises that cost even more a month. So that we really looked at it, and especially, like I said, buying my Microsoft Office licenses individually. Now everybody will have the most up-to-date version of Microsoft Office. We'll have access to the full suite of things that come with that. We'll utilize way more features with it. We know that it's, it ended up being a little bit cheaper to do Microsoft plus more features for the city. We really had a hard time deciding that it would be worth it for us to look at staying with Google more.
A little bit off topic, but same somewhat. We do have in your budget adjustment the $15,657.10 to bring courts. Courts was being managed by another vendor, and they've asked to come under the same contract, and we thought that was a good idea. So that's that extra cost this year. for this budget year, but we've already talked about being able to consolidate some things and bring that down going into next year. And what courts was paying their vendor is helping cover part of the cost. That's what is going to be extra for us this year, to bring courts under the contract with Pinnacle.
We do already cover their email accounts. That's included in our Google and included in the 250-ish that we're quoting for Microsoft. This would just be taking over their computers and servers and adding that to the courts, to the Pinnacle contract for courts.
Carry on.
So I have
Oh, go.
I have a question, and this may not be the right time to ask it. So what is our new .gov address?
It will be bryantar.gov.
And do we own that address? Because I know somebody secured it for us. Does the city outright own it?
D&T Media owns it.
That's not good. I think the city should own it.
We'll make that happen.
I agree.
I mean,
Yeah. Will we have to pay them for that?
yeah, I don't know. How much
Most-
does something like that cost?
I don't know what they're charging, but most of the time there is, it is usually a nominal cost in comparison to all this stuff. There is a domain hosting fee. And I'll be honest with you, it is standard in a lot of cases. I'm not saying for a city it should be standard, but I'm saying in a lot of cases that is usually how that's done. That goes a tiny bit over my head as far as the process, but I know you can transfer it. It can be hosted on internal devices, internal servers, things like that. So it's doable. I'm not going to speculate because I don't want to misconstrue anything, but it is doable.
Yeah, it's not about hosting as much as ownership of intellectual property and having proper control of your domain.
I'll make sure that we discuss that with D&T and figure out ownership of it.
Yeah, figure out how that-
intellectual with it, and make sure that we are at least owning the intellectual part of it, even if we're not hosting.
Yeah, I don't care about the hosting, honestly.
No, I think we should.
That's different than,
I'll make
yeah.
sure.
I mean, yeah, if something were to happen and we became unfriends, we could be up a creek without a paddle.
Yeah. I'll make sure we start that discussion. I know that they procured it well before I even really knew about the .gov transition. They were already working on procuring it for us.
Well, that's
Now that
good.
we're-
That's
Now that
good.
we're moving into this, I'll talk to them about transferring ownership and figuring that out.
We appreciate their help.
So next I wanted to run through was the timeline for the .gov project. The way our process works is obviously a little different doing the council and whatnot, but essentially if we all decide to move forward here one way or the other, we will determine if we're going to start in the next 2 to 4 weeks. I will, disclaimer, whenever we start, it's going to be done well before May 31st. The first thing we will do from a service standpoint is we're going to confirm user lists with Philip. Again, make sure we're acquiring or procuring the proper amount of licensing, and then they're going to go in on the back end on our engineering team and project team and back up every bit of data in the Google Suite, and they're going to have that in ongoing until we are ready to fully cut over, whether to Google or to Microsoft government tenant. And then next is essentially it's all data migration. So you're going to migrate all the mailboxes, all the cloud files, everything from, in theory, to Google, to Microsoft from Google, and that's just going to be a process. I mean, there's a lot of accounts, there's a lot of data, and maybe in that time, people can determine, hey, if you see something that's over X amount of years old, maybe we can archive that and not have to keep that in the cloud on an ongoing basis. But essentially, it's what it sounds like. It's literally a mass data migration from one provider to another. And then when we do the official cutover, there's a lot more details than just confirming all the data is present, but it's essentially going user by user and making sure that everything looks right, making sure that, hey, I'm not missing this folder out of my mailbox, or, like Outlook contacts, Google contacts, that transfer goes smoothly. It's simple things like that. It's going through each individual module of the cloud tenant and making sure everything's transferred properly. And then once that's all done, then we do the official, everybody needs to stop using Google, and whether it's through Philip or myself, or if you guys keep using Google, then it would be, hey, make sure you're accessing the account the right way, and it's a whole other thing. And the key thing here, and part of the reason we did keep and thought it was a good idea when we talked to Philip about doing the Google renewal, is you might find that there might be some reason to go back and access some data, or maybe some very niche particular file needs to be opened in Google. Somebody doesn't want to mess with reformatting it or fixing formatting in Microsoft, you still have that opportunity while the Google licenses are active. Anybody have any questions about the actual timeline and process for the project?
Would it be just like one fell swoop or department by department, or we've really laid out any of that stuff?
It's going to be user by user.
Okay.
I mean, honestly, that it's going to be nonstop migration on the back end. Nobody's going to know what's going on until it's like, hey, time to switch. But it's not. Yeah, I mean, we've done it in cases before where you're doing it all at the same time. It's just a matter of internet speed. It's a matter of all that. So usually you go through the list and the tenant, and the migration tool is going to go user by user. And it also double checks itself and part of the audit to make sure that things are there, and then we visually check it too. So. And then next is the server section. So I wanted to give you guys another opportunity to ask any more questions. I know it's a lot of information.
I got a question. This might be a ridiculous question, but is there gonna be any like reverberated cost associated with this with regards to like anything with the website, a sign, a banner, something that needs to be changed because the website, email addresses, business cards, like all of those are gonna be additional costs. They're nominal, obviously, but like there's some of that's gonna be associated with this,
It's
correct?
still,
Total
the
rebranding.
.com was, if somebody will go to .com, it'll kick them to .gov.
It'll redirect.
Yeah,
It's
I'm
like-
gonna keep we own it through GoDaddy. I'm gonna keep ownership of the .com for a while, just so that we can keep redirecting people to bryantAR.gov if they click the wrong
I
link.
can't think of anything else.
I think what Jordan might be saying is, are the email addresses going to automatically forward? Because they do have a different domain.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
So we won't have to,
Yeah, that was where I was going, but like they'd eventually have to change,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, that's-
they're gonna merge.
Yeah.
that's a cost to the city that is hidden.
Correct, that's what I'm saying, like, there's, in nominal, obviously, but it's just something I was.
As we get new business cards, we'll have
Right,
those changed.
is there anything in Bishop that's got, the website that you might have to change a sign? That's what I was thinking, those kind of things that we're not thinking about,
In cost.
yeah, obviously digital, so,
That stuff's gonna be cheap.
okay,
I think it's really just business cards would be the only print that would need to be reprinted, but that's just
That's
adding it.
not- yeah. Okay.
Good question.
I was just,
And we had that situation in 2000 at my business, and you'll be surprised how many places you find that documents have to be reprinted and signs have to be reprinted, so.
Yeah.
It's a good question.
Yep.
I can tell you in our department, we anticipated this change, and so on our vehicles, we put a QR code that we can change where that QR code goes. So that way we can make those changes on the back end. So that way, you'll see on the animal control vehicles, it doesn't say cityofbryant.com on any of them. It just has a QR code for that information. So that way, we preemptively prepared for this.
All right, and then next we're going to go through the public safety server upgrades. The why behind it is the server equipment. Server equipment's going to be end of life in summer of 2027. It's June or July. Can't remember the exact date there, but point is, like the mayor says, it's not something that we have to do right now. But the reason we are bringing it to the table is really from a cost standpoint, and I'll go more into that in just a moment. The upgrades are going to allow for a better backup solutions, and Philip and I confirmed at the same cost to what they're already paying for the backup provider, and better interfacing with City Hall servers. So essentially, the easiest way to put it is the servers don't really talk to each other as well as they should. And I'm no engineer, but our plan would be to set up the environment so that essentially if one site went down, if like Lord forbid, something happened at the PD server room or something, you would be able to access data and things. It would be redundant, and the machines would talk to each other. They would be able to virtualize in the cloud and access the data through the backups, and then also allowing the network to be more connected. And then the options for purchasing were either Dell or Pinnacle IT, us, and the pricing for Dell, I copied this straight out of their quotes spreadsheets. Straightforward as far as the line by line goes, the hardware, software, and then they have the hardware and software maintenance cost, and then the deployment services as well. And I'll go ahead and skip over to ours just to do a quick comparison. The total cost was $180,000 for ours, and the cost for theirs was $182,000. Missing a couple dollars off the end there, but where I'm going with this is we have the hardware costs, we have the storage costs, which is a little bit different than what they were suggesting. So we were, where we're going is wanting to add a on-site storage. It's called a SAN, a storage area network, and that would give better access and more available storage for city data and more accessible. And then it's just, there's a lot more potential and room for growth from a data standpoint. And then the other costs are going to be software for the Dell quote and the quote that we put out, Pinnacle put out. The other line items on here that are not on the Dell quote are the backup and disaster recovery hardware. That's a one-time cost of $6,000. And so essentially what that is, it's almost like another server. And again, Lord forbid, if something happened, servers went down at PD, the reason that price tag is what it is there are these literal computers that keep backups, and it's called a screen snip or a screenshot of the servers. And so if X server went down, you would be able to spin it up on that device. And I've seen it in different client sites run as the server for 2 weeks while you waited on a replacement drive or replacement part to come in. Other thing on both of these quotes that's worth mentioning, talking about drives, is that they both come with the best warranties of 5 years, overnight shipping for anything that you need to get replaced. And then on the backup side, it also replicates up to the cloud. So server room gets flooded, boxes, the storage box gets, absolutely wiped, data's still in the cloud, so it's still secure. And the flip side is, and the reason that you also want it on site, if something happens to the server and you're relying on pulling data down from the cloud, you are relying on internet speeds, and that can take forever, because we're talking about terabytes in some cases, in most cases actually. And then the professional services was 18 on ours, and I believe came out to, I think, 19 on theirs. Going the wrong way again. Yeah, their deployment services were 19. It's a very similar cost point, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend like it truly matters if the decision is made, hey, we're going to go ahead and do this, go with Dell or Pinnacle. The only thing I'll say on that point is that on Dell, they are offering management and ongoing maintenance and whatnot for their specialized software that they have on those servers. Like, they have their own Dell-based software, and even with that in place, you need people like us, Philip, and Tandem to manage and work on these devices if something goes on, because Dell's not going to be here in an hour if we need to go on site and fix a server. So from my perspective, and just thinking about makes the most sense, is why would you pay for services twice? So city's already paying us to fully manage server environment regardless. Like, to me, that would be the big thing here, and that also doesn't include the backup hardware as well. And the reason that we're even bringing this up now is the RAM issue that's going on in the industry. So I don't mind saying this to all of you. So essentially, when we built out our quotes, just like any other company, you have X amount that you mark up, right? The RAM from our vendor, they wanted us to sell it at $11,000 per 32 gig stick. To give y'all some perspective, it used to go for $500, $1,000, anywhere in this range. And so we did our best to put a minimal markup, nowhere near that. And you can see that on the quote. It is nowhere near that. And where I'm going is, with all the AI data centers coming in, Ingram is our big vendor for hardware. They don't guarantee availability of any RAM, because all these AI data centers have quite literally bought every last stick. We can still get it, but when I checked it last week, it said they're a Fortune 500 company, and there's 32 sticks of RAM available. The demand is never going to be higher. These AI data centers, the construction is going to keep going on. They're just going to keep building more. And that's why I don't want to say scared, but we anticipate that the costs, $182,000 a day, might be $250 or $300 next year legitimately. And so you have all these other parts, like the chassis for the server, which is the frame and everything. Like, the price is going to start skewing not just on the RAM, but everything else is going to start playing catch up too, And so that's our thing. And whether if city decides to move forward, council decides to move forward with this, it doesn't matter to me if you guys decide to do Dell or Pinnacle. What matters is a true understanding that the cost is incredibly volatile at the end of the day, and it's scary to think that, you know, that 180,000 would have took care of you, and these servers will last anywhere from 5 to 7 years, and that extra $100,000 might be needed somewhere else next year. And so that's where our head's at with it, and why we're presenting it now. And again, this would also replace a backup solution that they're currently, Philip already has a contract for through Barracuda. And by the time this project all got done, the timing would actually work out almost perfectly. And all that old data would transfer to the new backup solution as well.
You can go back a couple slides.
Dude, I just keep pressing the wrong button.
That's fine.
It goes backwards down to go forward.
So, server equipment, close to end of life, has a date on it. Is this like Mission Impossible? Is that stuff just vaporized? Why is it end of life?
Yeah, what that means is they're no longer going to push out software updates, security updates. Similar, I'm sure most of you in your own businesses, Windows 10 end of life, similar concept. So their operating system is not going to receive security updates and things of that nature. And also they won't support the hardware. If you call in, they're going to hands off, we're no longer supporting this.
So every single server in the city?
Just the ones for, it's called a VxRail in public safety. I mean, if you want to give any more details.
So how many, numerically, how many servers are at end of life?
I'm trying to think of how many servers are actually on the public safety server stack. I believe it is 7 off the top of my
Okay,
head. That
so
would
how
be-
many are end of life at 2027?
It's the whole stack. I mean,
Yeah, it's actually the
literally
equipment.
the
Okay,
entire-
so they were all bought at the same time,
Yes.
and they're all end of life at the same time?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
So didn't we appropriate money within the last, for a new server?
Just 148,000.
That's what I thought, yeah.
And I believe 2024, at the end of 2024, as part of the Amendment 78 for another server. But it's a different server from this server. I
There
think
was a
it's
big
the city.
switch expense,
It's-
network
Yeah.
switch recently.
There
Is
was,
all
so
that
we did purchase
compatible
a
with-
so we did purchase a new server here at City Hall.
Mm-hmm.
That was a VxRail system that we bought from Dell. The plan was that the system that's currently at public safety is not a VxRail, it's just an older model. I think it's VMware something, I can't remember technical names, I'm still very new. But the plan was at that time, purchase a VxRail here at City Hall, 2 to 3 years later, purchase another VxRail at public safety to be able to have duplication across. In case of failure, we'd be able to duplicate and run on just one server stack. But we'd have that split just for backup purposes, for emergency purposes. Where our plan is to either do a Dell VxRail at public safety or an equivalent from Pinnacle IT that would be able to do that dual communication instead.
But what we bought is compatible with what we're fixing to jump into.
Either
Yeah.
way, yes.
The maintenance that's listed on here, this is all just one-time cost on all this stuff, right? This
It's
isn't-
annual.
It's annual.
Is it?
I believe it is. I think it was annual.
So the hardware maintenance at 62,000 and software maintenance at 13,000
I could,
on
I
there?
could be
Or both
wrong.
of those are
It may have
annual
locked us
charges?
in for, I think that actually, now that I've said it and thought about it more, I realized I am incorrect. That is a 3-year.
Yeah,
I think. I think that one was a 3-year.
So those are the totals for the 3 years, or that's locked
Total
in?
for the 3 years,
Okay.
yes. One-time payment for 3 years.
Are we paying anything right now in that same expense category?
We have already paid it for Dell. So that's the support that ends in 27 is the support that we have paid for. It was one-time purchase at that time.
So it was one time for a number of years or one time for a lifetime?
One time for 5 years.
Okay. So this cost is going to be higher than that cost
Because it was 5 years ago.
because it was 5 years ago and
And the
probably
one
even
City Hall
more
was
than
like 2 or 3
inflation.
years ago, so that was the 148 that Joy was talking about.
If this becomes a 27 budget item, does that give you guys enough time between that adoption for 2027 and the end of summer when these would?
Absolutely. We would have enough time from the start of the year. Our main concern was that the price would be more next year, minimum 20 to 30% more. It's hard to predict the market, but everything I've been told has been 20 to 30% more. So trying to at least bring it forward now, letting you guys know that this is the cost right now. If you wanted to table it to next year, totally okay. We could budget it for it next year. just gonna be more
I
expensive.
think where my heartburn really lies is that we're talking about 182 here and 180, so we're talking 360 grand worth of changes. Like, really, at least, is there any money budgeted for any of this kind of stuff that we could?
I was waiting for somebody to ask.
I'm sorry, Troy. I mean, but I mean, like any kind of computer internet expenses, like I don't know if we had any kind of money allocated for switches or whatever else that.
I mean, not for these particular things.
Well, right, but
We have
line items.
allocated for the stuff that we knew we were gonna have to do, and we knew we were gonna have to do this, we just didn't know how much it was gonna cost.
Yeah.
So when we did the 2026 budget, I mean, I think we even talked about it, but then,
Yeah.
you know, knowing that it was coming and everything, but not having good estimates on how much it would cost us at that time, so we didn't put anything in.
So let me ask you guys, where's this money coming from?
I'm gonna be honest and say that I don't know, because I'm very honest, I don't know where it's
So
coming
what
from.
in the IT budget can we cut?
I don't know. I'm still,
Get anywhere close to.
yeah, I know that I have an IT projects line. Joy, do you happen to know off the top of your head how much I have in my projects line? I have a number in mind, but I don't want to say it without being wrong.
Yeah,
What's the
I don't
deadline?
know off
I
the
don't even
top of
see,
my head.
is there a
I know
date?
that,
It's May 31st. The deadline for that is
To
this
be
year.
honest with you.
So that's what we've got to
Put it in
spend
here.
Yeah, we've got to spend that money.
I got it. I'm still wanting them on the hot seat though.
Yes, no, no.
We won't do it all at
I
once,
get
or-
that.
I mean, your printing press for money is broke, if I understand correctly.
Yes.
Ours is too.
Hey, at the end of the day, I'd just like to say that all we can do from a provider's perspective is make recommendations on best practices, and, you know, that's where we're coming
Yeah.
from. But I get 100%,
We respect that.
yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah, that's why the server one, we really wanted to just bring as a recommendation of, it's an option, we know it's a pricey option, and we know it's hard.
Yep.
I'm still figuring out exactly what was in my budgets. I know I kind of copied them from last year and looked at it. I know we have an IT projects line. I can definitely look through it and find some things to add in there. We are looking at our servers that we currently have and trying to find ways to lower that, to lower our contracts with Pinnacle. I'm working as hard as I can to cut other small IT contracts. I know it's drops of water in the bucket, but I am doing what I can with my budget.
And also too, there are several things that I believe you and I have talked about this before. I won't say anything like for certain, but again, there are a lot of little small expenses that do add up a little bit that we're trying, every time Philip texts me, calls, emails me like, hey, do I need to renew this, or hey, can we talk about this? So we're trying to help consolidate everything. Like I said, so everything was very spread out as far as vendors go, and we're trying to help, you know, straighten the arrow there. From a cost standpoint, it's a lot easier.
All right, thank you, guys. We need to take a quick break.
As I said, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, let's take a quick break. We'll adjourn the workshop. Thank you for all the information, all the hard work. Thank you for all the great questions. Quick break, come back.
Hey.
How are you, young man?